This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Wednesday Week. My name's Dan Forger. Tonight we're going to unpick Sheffield Wednesday's third defeat in a row in the league. After an abject game of football on Saturday, we all left scratching our heads at what is going to come next. Xisco has asked us to trust the process, but some fans are starting to ask questions of what the plan actually is. Is it time to panic, or do we wait until Christmas like we've said to ourselves since the beginning of time? Joining me tonight is Simon, Holly and John as we ask, where do we go from here? So it weren't a classic, gang. John, I'll come to you first. You know, another defensive lineup. I mean, Xisco set his stall out in terms of what he wants a defence to do. I mean, there's some big lads there. I mean, Christ, what did you make of it? Give me a rundown on Preston.
Preston with Preston, and you know what you're going to get with Preston is the same game more or less every time. They're going to be physical with you. They're going to pump some long balls into the box. They're going to be strong on set pieces, both at their, at the back defending and also pumping balls into our box, attacking wise. And you just got to match up to them. But I think other than maybe the new signing, the 6'6" Diaby, not the Mambo number 5 Diaby, he had a pretty solid game, actually, didn't he? He was pretty composed on the ball, but just our luck, isn't it, that he only lasts 65 minutes. But I thought there was some improvement from what we've seen already, but very little goal threat, I thought, from Wednesday. Very little attacking threat. We never really looked like we were going to pose any problems to their keeper. But yeah, I think we tried to match Preston at their own game, but they've been doing that for a long time, and they just never seem to change. And we haven't got there yet. And like you say, it was quite a defensive sort of lineup. I mean, there's questions about whether Firmino did do pretty well, actually. But do you want Firmino at left back? He can play there, but would you rather have him as a centre half? That's a question I think some fans will be asking. But yeah, it's just I'm not sure what we're trying to be, Dan. If I'm honest, what's the identity? What are we trying to do? And I think when you listen to Xisco, and it is very early, obviously, but when you listen to him, I think he's coming across a little bit defensive in some of his interviews as well. I think he's feeling a little bit under pressure from certain questions from the media, certainly. And I think it's very early, but I think we've seen a little bit of improvement. But for me, I just want to see what is our style. What ultimately are we going to be? And maybe that's answered by the end of the window when perhaps he's secured a couple of more loans from maybe Premier League teams, or the new players have had more time to gel with each other in the training sessions, etc. But yeah, we've still got a lot of question marks right now, haven't we, going forward?
Yeah, I mean, Simon, we spoke about this before we came on air. There's a lot happening. There's a lot of change. And don't get me wrong, there needed to be change. There needed to be some change. Do you feel like it's just a little bit too much? I mean, in terms of style of play, players coming in. I mean, John mentioned there are a couple of loans. Do we need more bloody players? I mean, what do you think's going off? I mean, how do you quantify it?
Well, obviously, I'm an old man, so I'm obviously against change anyway, aren't I? It sort of goes hand in hand with a 52-year-old. Oh dear. Yes, you're right. We needed change. We needed improvements. My comments in our WhatsApp group on Saturday were met with certain people saying, no, you're wrong, which everybody's entitled to opinion. I feel that he's doing too many changes, and it might be changes for change's sake in some positions. I feel that, yes, we had a broad basis of a midfield prior to us going up, which last season we spoke about Byers, Bannon, Volks being a really good spine to start off with. And that's been broken up. Defensive wise, I'm actually sold on Fenwo playing in that position. I think he's more than competent to play, and I think he can pass the ball, which I think that's what our manager wants. I agree entirely with John in regards to this identity. I don't know what he's trying to achieve, and that really came to the point in the second half. Thought first half we looked exciting in parts. Masaba on the wing, he had a few runs down the wing. I wasn't quite sold on Momo at first, but he came into the game, and like John says, typically 65 minutes gets injured. But this one up front, Bannon playing where he is, it to me, I think it's. Someone mentioned on the WhatsApp group it's like a pre-season, but the trouble is we shouldn't be playing a pre-season now because at the moment we've got 0 points, and looking at it, the games we've got coming up, I don't see where our next points are going to come from, and that's worrying. I wouldn't have stuck with all the old guard, but I would have certainly not changed it as much as what he has done.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Christ, Holly, that was a shit game of football. But I was looking at the stats. Hang on, I was looking at the stats. This is the first time we beat them in terms of possession. First game for the season and pre-season, I guess. Right, you know what I mean? We've done them on possession. We actually had more shots than them. Did that feel like it to you? Because I'm pretty sure I just sat and nattered to Rich next to me.
Did he?
I don't know. I don't know. It bored me to death. It was bloody awful. What do you think?
Well, I know you've just said it's a bit like pre-season, but if these are the players that are going to play, then they might as well play. I don't see the point. I think last season everyone sort of said we're going to need some new players, and we've got them. If these are going to be the players that are going to play, we might as well play them. Why would we keep some of the previous season's players? Like, I accepted the Southampton defeat, and I know everyone said, oh, great, we've played them when they've got all them players. But if we're going to lose to Southampton anyway, get them out of the way while these players are learning what they're supposed to be doing. If we'd have played, say, Huddersfield or somebody that's going to be down there at the end and lost to them on the first day, we've wasted that. We need to play all the crap ones later on when they've all got a bit better and get the ones that we're going to lose anyway out of the way, which I think is why we're a bit more disappointed about losing to Preston than Southampton and Hull. I think Preston are like a low scoring team anyway. Last season, they scored pretty much one goal or no goals a game every game. And we're not going to score a lot of goals. So realistically, we need to at least get a point out of them. So I think everyone's disappointed with Preston rather than the other two defeats. But we might as well play these players and let them get used to whatever the plan is. I think the plan is get massive units everywhere. We're going to have 11 centre halves, which I'm all for.
all big stack geezers just heading the ball away, because I'm pretty sure that's Xisco's his criteria. How massive are you? What's your bicep? When he had Liam Palmer on the right.
We've got a similar criteria, me and Xisco, I think.
When Liam Palmer was on the right of that back four, you kind of went, where does he fit into this? He's going to have to go to gym a bit more, this lad.
You know what I mean? You know what? He came past us at one point, and I'm like, who's that? And he looked tiny, and he's not even a small guy.
No, for some reason, he just looks tiny. Now, John, that was a shitty goal to concede, because, one thing that I feel like Sheffield Wednesday have done well, if we were picking positives out of the last three games, was that a ball comes over, our massive centre backs get rid of it, our massive defenders get rid of it, and somehow we managed to drop our ass against a team who's only ever going to score shitty goals like that, right?
Yeah, really, really frustrating to concede, because that was quite a way out, that free kick. It wasn't like on the edge of the box or anything. It was quite a way out, and he just pumps a long ball into the box. And I think, if I'm right, I think a couple of our players may have collided with each other. And but you'd obviously expect, like you said, given we are now the Harlem Globetrotters, that we would have got somebody would have cleared that. But it fell just nicely to Liam Lindsay, didn't it? And Credit to Vasquez in the first half with that great save, but he had no chance for that one. It was just a bullet header, wasn't it, into the bottom corner? And
should he have come out for it, John? Should he have come out for it?
I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen people questioning whether he should have come out of it. And at the moment, you're looking at Vasquez. He's a big lad, isn't he? He's comfortably about 6'4", isn't he? So you fancy him to be coming for aerial balls like that. But at the moment, his main strength seems to be the shot stopping, with probably one or two questioning his positional sense right now. But that might just be lack of game time, because he didn't get much game time at Milan, did he? So yeah, I see the argument there. Possibly he could have come and at least punched it, if not caught it, because I know that these foreign keepers like to punch it, don't they, rather than catch it. But yeah, poor goal to concede, and especially with a game like that where it was probably going to be one goal was going to decide it, whoever got it. So it was really disappointing to concede that way, and I didn't think we offered much after that in terms of getting back into the game.
Did you think we'd get back into it, John? At all? Did you see it coming? Did you smell anything?
It was encouraging that we're having more possession. I mean, obviously, when we played Southampton, they had more possession than Linda Blair, didn't they? But you expect that because they're a Premier League team. So,
yeah. But
yeah, nice to see we were getting the ball a bit more, but there wasn't much threat. I was just getting concerned, and that there just wasn't enough positive. They weren't getting the ball into the box. We spoke about former players, and one of Holly's favourites, Marvin Johnson. He's the kind of player you want in situations when you're trying to get back into the game. So just ask him to get down the wing, bomb a cross in for like Lee Gregory or Michael Smith if he comes off the bench. Thought it was odd that never came and featured.
Sorry, John, I just lost your audio there. My apologies towards the back end.
Yeah, no, I can't remember. Did Windass come on as sub?
No. It's a big talking point, isn't it, Simon?
Yeah, this is where I started to get a little bit concerned about where we're heading, was his substitutions. Obviously, one was forced upon us with Momo Diaby getting injured. So it's because Smith was warming up already. And I don't think he was the swap that Xisco was seeing. And then obviously he got injured and Smith came on for him. But I think it was Fletcher came on for Gregory, didn't they? And what Windass gives you is he gives you that unpredictability. He's a guy who'll take a ball down, run at defenders, and the lumping forward. You talk about the size of our squad. Preston were up there as well. You know, every ball we put in, every free kick that Bannon put in, they defended resolutely. You know, and playing it on the floor was what we needed to do. And Smith and Fletcher don't give you that sort of ability. And that's where I've sort of gone down the route of there were better people on that bench to bring on than what he did. And it's
to coin a phrase that Charlie used last week. We're not having benchitis, are we?
No, we're not having benchitis. What I'm trying to look for is the better player, and this is why I'm saying about. I understand what Holly's saying is that if this is our future team, we've got to play them. But I still think there are better players, more seasoned players who are used to playing in this league who could play. And these guys come on a blooded, like they brought the PSG lad on, you know, in the second half when we're a goal up, something along these lines, rather than starting because Preston are a championship team, aren't they? They are established championship team. I don't think they're going to go to League One. They're not going to go to the Premiership. And every game we play them, and he's got them well organised as Ryan Lowe. They look very organised, and everybody knew their job. Don't think we could say the same about Wednesday players. I don't think there was one player on there who knew their job, and that's a worrying thing.
I think you're right because you know, like you said, the players that we already had in. You know, that we already had last season. Smith knows his job. Gregory knows his job. Windass knows his job. Bannon knows his job. But what Bannon's role is in this team, I don't know just yet. And we'll come to that in a bit. But people like Fletcher, I think I said to you at the time, Holly, I think he needs to work a lot harder. Because if you look at players like Gregory, who runs down on the last man, attacks the geezer, and then you've got Smith, who's large and physical. I don't know where Fletcher fits in up front. When he came on, I felt he was missing something. Am I being too harsh?
I think he'll come good. I really do think that he will come good. He did a little bit of a couple of good runs in front of us, but we lost possession before he got both times it were Palmer actually that lost the ball. So I'm glad Stevie's not on here. But really needlessly lost the ball. That's the kind of thing. If that comes off, then everyone says, "Oh, Fletcher's doing quite well," but he were running to nothing because we've lost it before he's got it. So I think he'll come good. They just have to be on the same page. And I think it looks like it's probably going to be Fletcher and Smith that play together. And then I don't know what they're going to do with the others. Just throw them to the Lions. I have no idea. But
what about the substitutes, H? Like Patterson came on. And we were all excited about it, and he kind of moved a little bit, and he wanted those 1-2s and stuff like that. But I felt that Patterson was trying to play football that he's just not physically capable of as the man shaped like he is.
I'm not. Are we going to have this every week? I love Patterson. I think he played well. I thought he did all right. Out of lots of them, I think he did better than most. I would say.
I think he brought some amount of impetus to the team when he came on. He was that
his
spark.
drive and passion was right there. Don't get me wrong.
And if we'd had 11 Pattersons, we would have won that game. You know, he honestly, and Palmer in the first half, and I'm putting it down to the fact that he's still not 100% fit. First half, I thought him and Delgado were superb in the first half. And then in the second half, we've all done it. I'm not the greatest of footballers, but, you know, you get tired, you get dehydrated, decision-making goes against you. And I think in the second half, Palmer tired and his decision-making went the same way.
There was a couple of times as well, Simon, where he put a few waist-high crosses in and stuff like that. There'd be a lovely bit of build-up play with Patterson. Passer, give him his back. It goes in. It goes in. That's what you do. James put it in. Johnson put it in. And there'd be like a fanny cross on the edge of the 18 at waist height. And no one wants that.
No, not at all. And I think that's down to, I still don't think he's 100% fit after his operation. He's not not the Palmer we had last season who was running half marathons every day. You know?
It's night and day, isn't it? Now, John, I want to come to you about substitutes because all right, we're not privy to the information, but I thought Delgado and Masaba in the double substitution that was made, they were like our better players that were on the pitch. And then the players that came on in Pato and Gassama, obviously Gassama was going to make an appearance at some point, and it would have been stupid not to because we were all frothing at the mouth that we had a Paris Saint-Germain player, sat on the bench. But Delgado and Masaba, I thought they were playing really well. Maybe they were just fatigued. I didn't notice because, I sat with Holly and her seats are shite to try and work out what's happening on the rest of the pitch. I mean, what did you see where you were?
No, I agree. I think there were two players that, even though we were struggling to break them down, looking like we were getting back in the side, the one thing that you had with Delgado and particularly more with Musaba was that they're not afraid to run at players, which is something we're not blessed with in the side, and players that will run at other players. Now, we all know we had a little bit of a teaser with Musaba against Southampton, so we're looking to him now to play with no fear, being that young player that he is and having some pace about him, to go and attack the Preston fullbacks and try and create something. And I think if you'd have left him on and then brought Gassama on as well, like you did, then you've got one on each wing, haven't you, to try, and you can even cross over, switch sides and stuff like that, just to try and break it up a little bit and offer a little bit more. Now, obviously, Gassama is, like you said, we're all kind of excited because he's come from PSG, bless him. I think first thing I saw him do was try and take somebody on and just bounce off him, like, obviously, welcome to the championship moment, wasn't it? Really, he's only a young lad, and I think he just run into some Preston 6-foot brick shit house and just went backwards, didn't he? But
yeah,
I agree.
Preston's recruitment sits a very similar vein as alongside our defence recruitment, doesn't it? They're all big stags, aren't they?
They are. They're physical, and they're going to let you know about it. And I think playing for the under-21s in Paris is a lot different to playing Championship football in England. And I think he he found that out pretty sharpish on Saturday. But there's the young lad. There's lots to come. But I would have liked to have seen that both of them stay on the pitch together, Musaba and Gassama, and maybe interchange and just try and create something and just be a little bit different, because we just seemed to revert to long balls, didn't we? Trying to get balls up to Fletcher to chest down and bring somebody into the play. And they'll mop it up all day. I mean, you're trying to beat them at their own game. They'll say, "We'll have that," and it were comfortable for them, really. I think it would have been nice to have mixed it up a bit, certainly.
Absolutely. Now, Holly, I'm going to talk to you about this before I come to you, Simon. I'm going to go with technical with you, Si. So we're going to go talk tactics. So H,
leave me out of that bit.
We were speaking. we spoke on the day about Devis and about distribution. Now, it's something that's been spoke about a lot on this show. It's been spoken about a lot on other podcasts, on other shows, on online and things like that. How much better Vasquez's distribution is. Now, like I said, we spoke about it on the day. Did you notice various glimpses and moments about this distribution, about this building it from the back and all the rest of it? Do you feel any better off with a different goalkeeper in?
Are you desperate for one of us to say that we are? No, I thought actually.
No, I tell you what. Listen, I want to turn this into. This is not going to be a Cameron Dawson jibe. This is not. I tell you what. What I'm concerned about is I don't feel any different. Do you?
I don't feel any different. Yes, I actually do, because I feel like when Dawson hoofs it, it actually is a hoof. Whereas I think when Vasquez was doing it, it was going just above everyone's head height and then just dropping at the right point. And I made a point after we'd mentioned it to watch when he was hoofing it long, whether it actually reached its target. And it actually did reach its target. It wasn't just launching it to get it as far away from him as possible, which is what we have been doing. He actually dropped it onto whoever he was aiming for. For the rest of the faults in his play that he's not settled into yet, I think actually that he did quite well on that bit, distribution wise. What did you think? Is that what you wanted me to say?
No, do you know what? That's exactly verbatim is what I was going to say. There's a difference between hoofing it from one end of the pitch to the other, where it's 30 feet in the air, and there's a difference between skimming it 8 feet in the air and then it kind of rolling back on itself and dropping to the player he's lent to.
It's the Jordan Pickford style of goalkeeping, isn't it? If you're going to kick it out, it's going to be a long pass as much as a goal kick, isn't it? It's a direct, it's a direct intention there. So yeah, I could see some of that, Holly, as well. Yeah, and we do still, even though Moore has gone, we still have this ethos of playing out from the back as well under Xisco, which you'd expect from a Spanish manager, because they're all about the passing game, the tiki taka. I mean, I think
there was only one point where it kind of came undone, though, wasn't there? There was one moment where it was at our end, wasn't it? Where we kind of played. Of course, it was at our end. I meant where I was sat at our end. It was Cop end, where we played it out from the back and we got in a little bit of trouble, but nothing to write home about, was it, John?
No, Palmer did another no-look pass in the second half when he'd moved as well.
Fuck's sake.
He didn't have his best second half, Palms, yesterday. No, I think the thing is with the key. I think the thing is with the keeper is he had a better first half because Preston weren't playing such a high press as they did in the second half. So in the first half, he could ping it around a bit more between the back four. Preston then played a high press in the second half, and it didn't allow us to do that because A, it didn't give us a room, and B, I don't think the left back and the right back were having the best of second half games. Certainly Palmer wasn't, and he was definitely drifting in a lot and not giving us that width. But I certainly see what Holly said. You could see that when God, he can kick a ball. Jesus, can he kick a ball? He can cover some, put that ball right up at the other end, and it was meant for players. Players might not have been exactly where they were, but Cameron Dawson, and we've said this from the start, isn't it? Cameron Dawson, the other strengths in his game, his main weakness is playing it out from the back, and we've got a continental thought process from the manager, and is playing it out from the back. It's that 11th outfield player, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think that's the.
Go on, John.
That's the. I was just to touch on what Simon said there. I think a lot of that came, to be honest, when Pep Guardiola came into English football, because one of the first things he did was get rid of Joe Hart and get a keeper in like Eduardo, who was almost like an outfield player in goal. Tremendous distribution. And I think, when somebody as influential as him comes into our game, we all start looking at that, and all managers start looking at that, and it filters down the leagues. And that's what we've been trying to do, for a few seasons now, is be a team that doesn't just do a traditional goal kick, wants to try and play it out from the back. And obviously Vasquez coming in, I think, is another part of that. I think Xisco, so yeah, Dawson is a solid squad member, but I'm looking for somebody who offers a little bit more in terms of distribution and playing out from the back. And you've got to say so far Vasquez is winning that battle.
I think our players just have to get used to the fact that he's going to move away from where the actual goal is, because that's 2 games in a row we've played a back pass and he's gone to the edge of the box, like the width of the box, and he's not actually in the goal anymore. They just have to, they'll get used to that, obviously. The more they play together, to come full circle.
Wow. That was a long point made, that H. Right. So what I want to talk to you now is about tactics. Now, like we spoke about earlier on, there is a lot of change happening, and a lot of change is necessary, but it's a lot all at once. Now, I want to talk specifically about Barry Bannan. Now, there is no denying that he is the most gifted player on our football team. We spoke to Lee Bull, and he was talking about that he can see passes in the back of his head, and he's right. I am concerned, Simon, that Barry Bannan and the way we use him isn't right for Barry Bannan, and he's not getting the ball enough for me. Yes, he battles, and when we've seen him do. He's got that really unique pose that he does when he does those 6-yard long slide tackles that he does and things like that. But do you not feel like we're kind of underutilizing him somewhat?
Right. Okay. So there's a number of issues here, isn't there? Firstly, we've discussed this for the last 2 or 3 years. Playing him too deep, playing him too far forward. I think he's playing him too far forward. Definitely do. I think we've seen more of his slide tackles in the last 2 matches than we saw the whole of last season. And I think that is honestly a player who's getting frustrated. That's why he's doing it. When it came to the free kicks, I wanted to mention the free kicks we had. Was people bemoaned it? Oh God, that's a crap free kick. That's a crap free kick. But the position in the players, Holly mentioned it on the WhatsApp group Saturday or Sunday, is when the ball came out, there was nobody there. There was nobody for that second ball. Everybody was in the box, and Bannan can't influence that. Bannon's putting the great ball in. It's going to come back out. There needs to be somebody on the edge of the box, which used to be Marvin Johnson, didn't it? On the edge of the box. Yeah. I think that then affects. He's playing him in the wrong position. Quite simple as that. I think he's also carrying an injury. I think he's carrying an injury at the moment. They said he had to have painkilling injections. I also, and this is going to be a really, really bad thing to hear, is I think he's starting to head into the twilight of his career. So I do. We are going to see Barry Bannan disappear. We're going to have to start getting used to this.
Sorry, Simon. So I don't know if that happened to anybody else, but Simon went, and this is going to be a really bad thing to hear, and then your microphone cut out. I thought it was like a gag you were doing.
It wasn't. Just shit internet in Northampton. I think he's heading towards the twilight of his career, and I think that's going to frustrate us. I think it's going to frustrate him more because this running around up front isn't going to do him any good whatsoever. He needs to be in a more central role, probably by the side of Byers. But obviously, our manager sees us having a defensive midfielder in there, somebody like Momo who's in there. So, but I said it earlier on. Does he know what his position is? I don't think he does know what his position is. In the second half, he dropped further back, started playing in that really deep role that we don't like him playing in.
Too deep.
Too deep.
That's his frustration that kicks in, I think, as well. But I
think
go on, John.
just to piggyback off that as well. I think I said to my friend that on the Saturday's game, that was the first time that Barry Bannon, we're in the Championship, but Barry Bannon looked like he was still in League One. And I was like, and why that? I don't think it was anything that was Barry Bannon's fault. I think it's a new system that's come in, and Josh Windass has already alluded to it and said, we're trying to, and Barry has said it himself as well. They're all saying, we're trying to adapt to these new tactics. It's going to take time. We can see the vision and we can see where it's going, but you've got to. It's early days. We've only played a few games, so it's going to take some getting used to. But I completely agree with Simon. I don't know if it's Barry. I'm not going to say Barry Bannon's father time's caught up with him, but currently in this new system, and again, it's very early days, so I don't want to pass a judgment too much. But Saturday's game looked like he was back in League One, and the rest of the team were in the Championship. Now, whether he can adapt, I mean, he's good enough to adapt, or whether we need to Xisco needs to look at it and say, you know what, he's not as effective there as where he is when he's in his normal position, and readjusts and recalculates that. So yeah, definitely want to look at that, and hopefully we can figure that out.
I think I was going to say virtually the same, John. So if you look at a player like Bannon, right, and if you wrote the formation out on a piece of paper and drew a circle around each player on what you'd call their sphere of influence, in terms of the bigger the circle, the more influence they've got, the more technically gifted they are, the better footballer they are, essentially. Barry Bannon would have one of, if not the biggest circle around him. And where the circles interlink around the players, this is some old school football shit, this, right? Where the circles interlink, that's where you get the better chemistry. And I feel like where he is not the best use of his sphere of influence. I don't feel we're getting the best out of him by sticking two geezers either side of him like bookends. We need him to roam. We need him to play in that free role. The issue is that where he played that free role on Saturday was a bit too far forward. And Holly, it kind of kept Windass out the team, didn't it?
I just don't think I can see where some of these play. I know we all love them, but I don't think I can see where they would fit into what we all think he's trying to do. And where would you have put Windass? Who would you have taken off for Windass? Where would you have put Bannon? All we're trying to do now is trying to convince him to play last season's team that got us promoted, and he's not going to do that. So
and we're not playing that right football for it either.
No, exactly. So they are going to have to change what they're doing. We can't change our team. I know what you're saying about Bannon being very technically gifted, but we can't change his team for Bannon forever. It's not going to be like in 10 years' time and we'll wheel Bannon back out and we'll keep trying to pass ball to him. At some point, either he changes or he has to. I'm not going to say it, but you know.
But it goes back to what Simon was saying about change, right? So we've got a new manager, we have to adjust. We've got a lot of new signings, we have to adjust. We're playing a new formation, we're playing a new amount of defenders, we're playing a different style of goalkeeping. That's 5-6 changes right there. And already, Simon, like he said, that he don't like change, but we know it's necessary, right? Now, all of a sudden, added into all of this change, we've now got to worry about life after Bannon and start preparing ourselves for that and where he fits into that. And that's another thing that's changing. And so to go back to your point, Simon, that you said, this is more change. This is more things that need to gel. So, like I'll ask all of you, do you feel it'll come good?
It all depends. If we all genuinely think we're going to keep Xisco all season, then we have to just accept it, don't we? But are there people just clinging on for dear life thinking by October, we'll just go back to all these players and everyone will be back to normal?
5 at the back again.
They probably are thinking that. If we can guarantee that this is what we're going to play for the rest of the season, then those players are, and I know everyone keeps mentioning Marv, and I absolutely adore the man in many, many different ways, right? But when we got promoted, or even before the playoff final, these are players that you did probably think, and you actually had to think a bit longer about whether they were championship players or not. Now they're not playing the suddenly Pele for some reason. We're going to have to just either they will have to change to be championship players in this system, or we're going to have to get rid of them. I guess that's the only thing you can do. If this is what we're going to do and it's not working for them, then they either do it or they don't.
I think what this brings out and what it really shows us is that many years ago we used to have was it the Pontins League or something, the reserve team league that we used to have. And I am going way back here. I remember it in the early 90s where late 80s, early 90s, Ron Atkinson, Trevor Francis signed plethora of really talented players. We had really talented players. Obviously, you had Chris Woods in goal, Kevin Pressman backing him up, Des Walker, the players that we had, and there was always a second, equally as good player behind that one person. And we played a competitive reserve league where new players went in and had to prove themselves. And they went in there and they played, and it was a competitive league. And I think we won it one year. I'm sure we won it one year. A couple of years, we were very competitive, playing Manchester United, Arsenal, all these other teams. This is where the changes that we're going through, that sort of league is needed because because the training ground is all well and good, but you're not going to get the same level of tackling. You're not going to get the same level of commitment as you would do in a league. Are they going to play them? I don't know. You don't see a lot about the under-23s anymore, do you? It used to be that people used to get chucked in the under-23s. I think this person we spoke to earlier on the day alluded to that, didn't they? There was the punishment was putting somebody in the under-23s. So we're having to blood these players.
I was going to say, I think that's why we won it, because we kept putting John Sheridan in there.
Yeah, exactly. So you would have these new players plus our old players, Marvin Johnson, all these players who then have got a chance to prove themselves, and we don't have that anymore. So we're having to learn really, really quickly. Now, I'm a great believer in is it will come good, because I keep harking back in my head to when Carlos came and we had a really poor start to the season. He brought all these players in. But the only thing that is a niggle in my head is that I think the players that Carlos brought in were actually better players than what Xisco's brought in. And it took a while for Carlos 100%. To get his system. It took a while for Carlos to get his system right. And then, bosh, up the league we went. And the problem here is that I think we've thrown a dice at a lot of players who, on paper, look like they could be really good players, but what if only 2 or 3 of them are? And
pretty sure that happened under Carlos as well, though.
God, no, it was quite a lot that weren't very good, certainly in his second season. But the problem is, what I don't want to see happen is that all of a sudden we at the moment we win a game, we go up to 15th, something like that. Yeah, exactly, because it's really close at the bottom.
But 15th, right? There's only been 3 games played this 15th. Now, we are the only team that's played all 3 fixtures that still hasn't got one single point in the entire EFL. Because of the amount of transitional things that we're going through right now. There's a lot of change happening. So, Simon, are you panicking just yet? And when will you panic?
No, I'm not panicking just yet. But what I am doing is looking at the fixture list and thinking to myself,
where's
the first point going to come from? I mean, I'm going to Cardiff on Saturday. That's going to be a long journey back, But then again, they've only got 1 point, But I just, what? I can see everything what he's doing. I think the defense. I think what he's trying to do with defense is good, and I think what he's trying to do with midfield is good. And certainly, I think there's some exciting play on the wings, which we haven't seen for a long time, and which we never saw under Darren Moore. My main worry is we all the way through pre-season we weren't scoring goals.
No,
and I love Lee Gregory to death, and his work rate is superb, but the amount of chances he missed on Saturday was worrying, and I don't think Michael.
They were half chances at best.
They were half chances. They were
at them because the ball was there.
And at least he got in those chances, but we need a strike. We need a striker. We need some amount of pace, I think, up front. which we haven't got in Gregory Smith Fletcher. That's why I wanted Windass to come on, because he offers you that little bit difference.
He's a bit lively.
You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Holly, let me, before I come to you, John, I want to talk about Marvin Johnson, and I want to talk about Reece James, because you kind of like, well, James could have gone on and had a career, and we've kind of stopped it off by the amount of change that's happened at the club. I was trying to work this out in my head, and I think I alluded to it last week, where it could be as simple as Xisco's gone, where do you play? Wing back. I don't play that anymore. See you later. You know what I mean? And they just sat him there. Now, does Xisco want his fullbacks to go bombing on? Does he want them to do the overlap? Does he want them to go past the halfway line? Is that why Johnson's not getting a nod? And suitably Reece James as well. Do you reckon that's what it is? They want them to be a bit more disciplined in being a right and left back, or do you feel like it might be something else?
I think the problem with James is that he was like, when Chansiri were like, well, we're still going to sign people. I've got the list. And then we signed James like immediately after that, didn't we? He was like, it definitely wasn't this manager's player. He must have turned up to training and seen everybody over 6'5" when he's my height and gone, really?
Yeah, I love the idea of Chansiri wheeling back going, yeah, Xisco, I've got a lad for you. He played for us last year. He's fucking brilliant. And they're like, Xisco, like when, surrounded by these big, huge units that he's got, like Dom Iorfa, just looking down and going, what the fuck is this? You know what I mean?
And he's shorter than him.
Yeah. You're taking a fucking hippies.
I love them both, and there's been bits of play, like you say, when Pato's been putting crosses in or others, and you think, oh, Marv would have got that in straight away, first try.
Yep.
However, would Marv have defended as well?Maybe not. I love him, like I said. I were on the cusp as to whether to keep him or not. He's sort of had a little whinge online about not playing, Auntie, and his wife has also been liking people's complaints about him not playing. But I can't tell if Marvin Johnson is one of those players that, again, is in his minds is better than he actually would be. He has been in the Championship before. Has he been any good in the Championship before? I don't think Borough were raving about him, were they, or whoever. And then, like, James came to us again. I absolutely adore the guy, but maybe when the play's a little bit faster, when the strikers are a little bit more savvy, is that why he didn't get in Blackpool's team? Maybe. I don't know. James, I think, is just so unlucky that he definitely is not in the mold that Xisco wants. Like, he definitely.
I mean, look at him. Look at him. Look at the geezers at the back. I had no idea Famewo was that jacked either. Has he put like a load of muscle size on it? I knew he was a big guy, but
I remember we signed him and then he got injured, I think, virtually straight away. I remember Ethan saying, he's a right unit, Dad. You know, he is. And I think that is definitely why he fits in that position.
And we signed another 4 of him.
Yeah. And I actually think that Masaba is actually a better player than Marvin Johnson.
He put some good balls in, to be fair. He did.
And he's willing to take players on, and he's got tricky feet. And I like Marvin Johnson, but he wasn't very good at getting back and defending. And he wasn't somebody who'd take a lot of players on. He'd tend to just kick the ball at them and hope it would go past them.
That's harsh.
That used to wind me up, Holly. But his crossing of the ball was superb, absolutely superb. But I think Masaba is a different type of player. It's what Xisco wants. So that's the left side sorted, isn't it?
Deal done.
Yeah,
Pato on the other.
He needs to get in the gym, get a Cuban heel on.
and he was definitely Reece James was definitely not one of Xisco's signings.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
No, we wouldn't have signed him if Xisco.
But that's the issue, though, isn't it? The problem is the change has been much bigger than anticipated, because we've gone from, it's not just a change from being promoted of the League One side to now competing in the Championship. It's the change that's promoted from League One to Championship, lose your manager, have 2 recruitment lists which were drawn up by said ex-manager, along with advisors, Chansiri, etc., to then recruit him for a new manager. He's coming in, and he's got a system and a style, and like you've already mentioned, players there that he's already looked at and thought, nah, not for me. And so now we're signing every Tom, Dick, and Harry from all these other leagues to try and fit this system. So, and obviously, mold them together with only like 3 games gone, no points, down there at the bottom of the, near the foot of the table. So the change has been enormous, hasn't it? Really, and I think we've got to take a breath sometimes and realise that we're dealing with more than just being a promoted side. We're dealing in a complete rebuild with a different manager, different tactics, and
top.
I bet Iorfa's loving it though.
He's having the best time. He's actually
every day.
He's superb. He's been
brilliant.
Kevin Francis is coming out of retirement.
Yeah. But mind you, he must have looked at these other geezers coming in and gone, well, I tick a lot of the criteria that these other guys have got. I might have got another chance here. You know what I mean? But listen, let's move on. Now, I was looking at the predictions from last week. Stevie went with 1-1, Charlie went with 1-1, and Ash and I went for a 1-0 win, Wendy. So nobody won that one. So coming up, Simon, we've got
Cardiff
this weekend. Cardiff away, bank holiday weekend. I think there's a train strike on somewhere, so get your lives in order. I mean, Cardiff are going through a tumultuous time. What do you reckon?
Well, this is another one of those games, like Holly said, we play Preston. You would hope to get a point out of that at least. This is another one of those games, isn't it? Yeah. It is a game that we can go and win at. Cardiff aren't the big team they once were, although I'm positively not happy about Mark McGuinness signing a new contract with them. All I'm hoping is they sign a contract, in which case they're going to sell him to a Premiership team and make a lot of money out of it, because I think they're under a bit of a transfer embargo, etc., etc. So look, let's go down there with, again, we can win it. We can win it. We can win that game. We can draw it. But a loss, oh dear, I'm going down on a bus. It's going to be a horrible journey back. It's going to be just awful if we lose again.
Is it a mega bus?
No, it's full of people from the Mester bus. Anybody who lives around here, and you used to, exactly. So it's going to be fun. All the way up there.
What do you reckon? What are you thinking?
Oh crap, mate. I'll go for, if it's going to be a draw, it'll be a 0-0, because I don't see where our goals are coming from. Or 1-0 win to them. I'll go for 0-0.
0-0. What about you, John?
I think, I do think it's going to be another tough one. Just don't see the goal threat from us at the moment, if I'm honest. Not sure that's going to come until maybe towards the end of the transfer window, maybe with something coming. I know we were linked with a guy from Turkey, but is another one that doesn't have a good goal scoring record.
I'm
Yeah, I can't pronounce his name, but if you look at transfer rumours, it was on there. I think don't know if Huddersfield might be in for him now. So fingers crossed they take him, because his goal scoring record's not great to say the least. So my main concerns, like many of the other Wednesday fans right now, is the goal threat. Cardiff's going to be another tough one. I'm going to go 0-0, and
0-0.
I hate saying that. Yeah.
Is that because you don't want to predict a loss?
I don't want. Well, I just don't. They might sneak a goal, but 0-0, and I'm like, I shouldn't really be happy with a 0-0. Who's ever happy with a 0-0? You know what I mean? But
it's our point, John. It's our point.
It's a point.
We'll take all we can get.
Yeah.
See how we go. All right, Holly. I'm like Simon. I feel like we're either going to get bang 3-0 or it's going to be 0-0. What about you?
So, I love Mark McGuinness. He's my future husband, and I adore him.
I feel like we need some kind of announcement for that.
I'm just looking at the extra list. So who are we taking off, Holly? Because they've got so many.
What?
I'm
Holly's future husband list.
Yeah. It's...
However, this weekend has been a high hope and low reward weekend already for football that's just gone with the England game as well. I was very excited about both the Wednesday and the England game, and they both let me down. But I'm going to get excited about the Cardiff game, and I'm going to go for 3-0 to us. Why not?
Because winners don't take drugs, Holly.
We're going to beat somebody. I mean, we're going to lose all the other games. Don't get me wrong, but we're going to beat somebody, and it might as well be these. So-and-so.
Okay, before I move on to any other business, before I wrap this up, I did just want to touch on the England team getting to the World Cup final. It's a hell of an achievement, and it's unlucky that it went down to one goal. And the goal that was scored, the goal scorer unfortunately lost one of her parents, and she didn't even know, and she just won the World Cup. I mean, if you come at it from another perspective, stories like that happen all the time. I do have a huge crush on Mary Earps right now. I think that goalkeeper
so do I.
she just screaming fuck off in the World Cup final. Absolute fave. And do you know what I did like the most about it, to bring this round to football specifically, was that Serena Wiegmann put her balls on the fire, and I absolutely loved it. She really what was it Carla said? Put our meat on the fire. He's gone. She said something's not working, so she's taken off our top scorer. She's taken off. Who did she take off, Holly?
Russo.
Daly and Russo. Just to change something. Something he changed, he changed it. Something that we maligned Darren Moore for not doing enough last season, especially when things weren't going our way. He didn't make that change quick enough. And Serena Wiegmann, if she'd have pulled it off, would have been an absolute master tactician. And I'm gutted it didn't work, because that'd have been a better segue to move this into Sheffield Wednesday, Darren Moore and Xisco Munoz. But unfortunately, it wasn't to be. I just want to say congratulations. But in the meantime, does anybody have any other business? It's been a shit week, hasn't it? We haven't signed anybody.
Very quiet.
We've had a shitty loss against.
I think
it was. Go on.
Before we all go, when you lose a game, are you happy that they get a week's rest to the next game, or are you wanting a game straight away on the Tuesday? What's your normal sort of stance on that?
In midweek as well?
Yeah, ruin my week as well as my weekend.
So Holly clearly likes a week gap. Yeah, I was like,
tell you
when we lose a game, I think I want to right the wrong straight away, or get them on the training pitch for a week.
When we had Carlos in charge, John, there was an interesting change in me, because I used to really hate the international break. I'd be like, fucking hell, because I always felt like it always broke down our momentum. I felt like we'd get on a bit of a run, and then the international break had hit. Now, when Carlos came in and his foreign ways, when it became about fitness and physicality as opposed to actual footballing ability, as ridiculous as that sounds, the international break gave our players that weren't playing, if we had any, gave our players time to recharge and get their bodies back in order and stuff like that. So a week's rest, I'm kind of okay with, because we need Liam Palmer to be back fit. We need Barry Bannon to be back fit. And if we're not playing 3 times in an 8-day period, then I'm okay with it. What about you, Holly?
I agree. I sometimes you don't want to see him for a bit, do you? You just have to have a little. I was just shaking my head at what you said, because the 2 players that you mentioned that you wanted to be fit were the 2 players that I said. Well, not the 2 players, but some of the players that I said to phase out. It's like you just ignored everything that I said.
All right, we'll move on from that. What about you, Si? It's a good question.
Yeah. Currently, I would definitely enjoy the week off, because he's got all these new players to play together. But so for example, the Carlos one was a superb example. We just get on a run. It was that we're on a run, and I think he was heading towards manager of the month. And then there was an international break, and we came back and we lost. And it seemed to kill that momentum. But at the moment, we are
on a run.
Yeah, and we need to get out that one, don't we? And I think the time on the training pitch is additional time to help those players gel together and get an idea of how they're going to play. So at the moment, I'll take it. But if we end up on a 6-match unbeaten run after beating Leeds in a couple of weeks, then You know, you want the games to keep coming thick and fast, don't you?
I'm just gonna. What about you, John? What's your thought process on it? Do you want the monkey off your back straight away?
I think it's subjected to how the team's doing, isn't it? Like we've all just mentioned there, you've all provided some good comments on that. I think if you're on a good run, you want to keep going, and you bemoan the international break and anything like that. If you're in our position as we are now, a side that's still in transition, still building, then yeah, I think getting that extra time on the training ground is probably going to be the better way to go. And obviously, as you know, the championship, it'll start off, you get a game a Saturday, and then you get to a period, I think it's like sort of like going to October, where it's grueling and it's just Saturday, Tuesday, and then cup games in between and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's subjected to how the team's doing. So right now, probably the extra time on the training ground would be better. But then if you're on a good run, you just want to keep rolling, don't you? Like, so
I bet the players would rather play sooner to get it out, to get back on the field. But as fans, I think we'd rather,
because they're desperate to get that first win, aren't they, and get the points on the board, aren't they? Yeah. So,
oh mate, I'm on the pitch. Like, come on. 1-1 draw. Yeah, come on. Right, let me wrap this up.
Desperate.
We just need a win. We just need our point. Let's wrap this up. We've got a shitty load of fixtures coming up soon. The best we can do is just hope that the guys turn up, and we'll stay. You know, I don't think it's time to start pulling triggers just yet, or even questioning the manager's ability. There is a significant amount of change happening at Sheffield Wednesday, and we might have to be patient. In the meantime, thanks a lot for listening. Don't forget to take a look at our socials, see where we're giving money to and who we're giving money to. I fucked that up. Should have practiced that, shouldn't I? In the meantime, see you later.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.